here at Coach Sumrall's house.
Right down the street from Coach Spurrier.
It's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ready to go.
Big time neighborhood.
You ringing the bell? You text him? Did you let him know that we're coming?
I think he knows we're coming.
Okay.
Let's see.
I was going to see how long I could make y'all wait.
We were getting a little bit worried, man. How you doing?
Great, good to see you.
Appreciate you having me, man.
All right, come on.
I'm honored and humbled to be the head football coach of the University of Florida.
I see a lot of helmets here in the home office. What do they mean to you?
Yeah, just the background, man. Everywhere I've been. University of San Diego, where I got my first full-time job, 1AA non-scholarship football. A little different resourcing to now to the University of Florida. Just a great reminder of the journey I've been on. This is what my dad would be most proud of. I'm in the Madison County Hall of Fame right here. My dad would go up to people and go, you know, John's in the Alabama Hall of Fame. I'm like, well, Dad, it's the Madison County Hall of Fame. It's not the State Hall of Fame yet. That award reminds me of him because I think it was one of the accomplishments I've got that made him most proud.
What does that mean to you, though, being from Alabama? You just recently had a chance to be at a high school coaches convention there. They put you in a prime spot. The respect that they have for you coming from the state and all.
Yeah, I'm a product of that state. You know, it's where I grew up. It's where I played high school football. My mom still lives there. My in-laws still live there. Every high school coach from Mobile to Huntsville, I pretty much know them all. And so there's still a lot of connections back in that state that mean a lot to me.
Hey, Coach, got a minute for a few more questions? Does this feel like home yet?
It is, yeah, 100%. Feel like I'm at home here at this house, but also feel very much at home in Gainesville.
No, wait a minute. No, did you design the house and stuff like that, or?
Did you have anything to do with the house?
I helped buy the house, designing zero. Yeah, very little to do with designing. That's my wife's lane. She's a pro at that. I'm a pro at working, hopefully.
Does she just take the role of being the coach's wife in every move and kind of get you guys settled in while you're focusing on the football side?
Yeah, you know, Jenny and I have known each other since high school. Didn't date in high school. Kind of a funny story. My senior year prom, my picture before going to prom is in her foyer. I'm with one of her best friends. She's with one of mine. Oh, wow. And so kind of a crazy small world deal. We started dating as adults when I was living in California. I was a defensive coordinator at the University of San Diego. And we got married then when I was at USD. And every move I pretty much have nothing to do with. She's there when the movers show up to pack the house. She's there when they show up to unload the house. I pretty much show up and try to make sure I avoid all the work that's involved. But I tell people all the time, she's a better head coach's wife than I am a head coach. She's a pro at leading the wives, making sure I can focus on the job. She's an absolute beast at what she does.
And now you sit here in Gainesville, and that comes with a lot of sacrifice as well, too, right? Because you go from San Diego to all these different places. Like, what's that sacrifice been like for the family aspect of it?
Well, I think when you are in this profession, it's a calling, and that's a whole family deal. You know, going back to when we were dating, I'll never forget, we were sitting at a beach bar in San Diego, overlooking Pacific Beach, and I was close to being ready to ask her to marry me. And before I did it, though, I said, Jenny, could you live in Pocatello, Idaho? And she's like, excuse me, why? And I said, well, I'm a football coach, and there's a school there called Idaho State. And I'm not saying I'm going there, but you never know in this world. And then I started naming out Missoula, Montana, and different places.
Not the beach.
No.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm coaching FCS non-scholarship football. And so I'm not throwing out like Gainesville, Florida, or, you know, SEC towns. I'm throwing out like the next step up from USD, which would be an FCS, maybe a scholarship FCS school. Martin, Tennessee was one of the towns I threw out. UT Martin, where Jason Simpson's head coach ties that.
Yeah.
And so I throw out all these towns, and she's like, yes, for you, yes, for you, yes. And I'm like, all right, I think we can get married. Let's do it. And so, you know, I do think it's a calling. It's a family deal. We're all in this thing together. Our wives as coaches and our kids, my kids, certainly, they live and die with each play, with each game. I mean, they're on the emotional roller coaster just like a normal fan is, where for us, it's the job, it's the profession, it's what we sign up for. But she's a pro. She does a great job.
Were you like that as a kid? Just die hard, whether, like, who was your team growing up? Not even football related.
Yeah, so I grew up really just loving SEC football, to be quite honest with you. I grew up in Alabama. My mom did go to the University of Alabama. My dad went to Southern Miss, though, so I'm kind of like a mutt, if you will. I don't have any sort of like family allegiance where I just grew up going to one school's games. I did sit in Legion Field and watch Alabama and Florida play in the SEC championship game and saw Jack Johnson get busy with it one rainy Saturday in early December growing up. And so I grew up loving SEC football. And then during certain waves, I probably did like certain teams more or less or whatever. I probably liked players and coaches. But yeah, I've always been that way too, just like my kids are, or the ups and downs of the wins and losses.
You mentioned your family now. How would you say your family life was growing up compared to the family life that you've created for yourself?
Yeah, I had great parents. Still, my mom's still alive. My dad passed the Friday before the CFP game this year. But I had an unbelievable home growing up. Didn't grow up necessarily like over the top privileged. Didn't grow up broke either. We were normal. My mom was a school teacher. My dad had a government job. He worked Department of Corrections for several years, and then shifted and worked Department of Defense. Most of my real childhood, he was in the DOD. My dad worked in the Pentagon some. Redstone Arsenal, where I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, is a DOD backup center for the Pentagon. And so both parents really hardworking. I was actually sharing with my son the other day, like my mom didn't teach at the school I went to until I was like getting ready to be a junior in high school or sophomore in high school. And so I would go to school. My dad would either be in DC, Arlington, wherever, or already at work. My mom would go to her school, and I would get a ride from to school and from school every day as a kid growing up. And so my parents worked ridiculously hard. They're very serving. They care so much about other people. Watching the way they lived, not just for each other, but how they lived to help other people. And always sacrifice for others that are around you if you can help them. And so, my dad, when I was a young kid, my dad would load up a 15-passenger van, and we would go to junior colleges and Division II schools throughout the Southeast to help kids from my hometown that weren't SEC players. They needed to go to get exposure to play college football. And so he would do that like as a hobby. He wasn't a coach. I would load up my dad. We'd go to Hines Community College just outside of Jackson. I remember making a drive to drop one guy off at Sam Houston State in Texas from Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're going from Huntsville to Huntsville. I'm like, man, my dad would find guys that needed help and help them find a way to get to school and live out their college dream as a player. And so my parents, I wouldn't be who I am without them.
When was that moment that you're on either this ride or you're getting introduced as a head coach somewhere that you're like, I could tell Dad was proud?
Yeah, all of them. My dad, he never let the truth get in the way of a good story when it came to my career. My dad had no problem letting everybody know that I'm in the Madison County Hall of Fame, which if you didn't know better, that was like the College Football Hall of Fame to my dad. And so he always was beaming with pride every step of the way. I tell people kind of as a joke, I've said this publicly, but like my dad being there when I took the head job at Troy was a big deal. Just seeing him in the audience, and then being able to take the job at Tulane, and he was there. But then the last couple of years, as his health waned, I tell people, the last month of his life, for my dad to be able to be here in Gainesville when I take this job, and to be able to take some pictures with Dad in the indoor, and then do some things with him in the building and see him around. And so he saw where I'm at now. He didn't miss this step. I'll get a little emotional, but so he saw us take this job, and then he saw us win the conference championship again. We beat North Texas. Dad was there.
Yeah,
like he was in attendance, and so he was there for that. And then Dad saw us get selected for the CFP, and I kid around people. Dad saw we had to play Ole Miss again. He said, "All right, I'm out. Like I'm not watching this ass kicking again." And so
he passed on Friday before the Saturday.
Yeah, so Dad passed on Friday before we play Ole Miss on Saturday, and the running joke of my family with me is that Dad said, "I'm not watching Ole Miss beat your butt again," because they'd already beat us earlier in the year. And so, but Dad, my mom tough as nails. Dad passes on a Friday. I find out because I'm calling Mom on my way to work at 6 a.m. At Tulane in New Orleans. And Mom says, "Hey, I wasn't going to bother you till after your practice this morning because we had a morning run through." And she goes, "But since you called, Dad, I need you to know Dad passed last night." I said, "Mom, what can I do? What do you need?" And she said, "I'm fine. I've got everything under control. The emergency people are here. I'm calling the funeral home right now. Like we got everything sort of started. And she was going to drive my dad over to the game that night for the next day. And I said, Mom, if you can't make it, I completely understand. If you can, I'm also comfortable with you doing whatever's best for you. Like your ball's in your court. Don't do what I need. Do what you need. And I said, I'll go coach this game, and I'll be immediately there. And Mom said, oh no, I'm not missing the game. And so she got everything handled with Dad Friday morning. Friday night, she's at the team hotel eating dinner with me. And so like she wasn't gonna miss it. And so we crazy whirlwind of events. Play the game on Saturday. Saturday night, lose the game. Saturday night, head back to New Orleans. Sunday, I'm on a plane back to Huntsville to help Mom for a couple of days with Dad stuff. And then we buried Dad on the 23rd of December. Christmas Eve, the 24th, my mom, her dog, my wife and kids, we all get on a plane to fly, go see Jaden Ball to recruit him to come back to be a Florida Gator. And so it was a whirlwind of events where like life was real fast.
What a great, I mean, it's what you tell your players all the time, coaches, block out everything else that's going on. I mean, that's the ultimate test of being able to do that. That was a prolonged illness that he had dealt with. Was it a surprise passing that day, or did you have a chance to prepare?
Yeah, it had been a roller coaster. Dad's health had ups and downs. To be honest, most recent, right before his passing, it had been more up than down. So it was one of those deals. If you told me March of 25 that Dad was getting ready to go, I was like, yeah, I could see it. And then November of 25, he's at every game the whole month of November, watching every game we play, and he's right there on the sideline. He needed help getting around a little bit, but he was kind of on an uptick, to be quite honest. And so it was a little bit more sudden or abrupt than we saw coming, but he had his battles. He had been in a fight, and it was time for him to go to heaven and be with Jesus and rest.
How important is faith in the family and your family structure?
Yeah, so we talk all the time about faith, family, football. And then with our players, the fourth one's their future. And so it all starts with your faith, I think. And when I talk about faith, I never try to impart my beliefs on a player. Like, everybody's got difference of opinions and different things they believe in. The biggest thing I want them to understand is you need to believe in something bigger than yourself. Life's not all about you. And so whatever you choose, I don't care religious preference, but the faith of, man, there's something bigger than just me in this world. This world's not here to serve me. All right? And so how do you give back in our daily lives? My wife, she's the spiritual rock of our house. We come to make decisions. We pray on most of them, if not all of them. Her prayers are usually much deeper than mine. Mine are usually probably a little bit more surface, but we definitely have a faith-driven home.
I love the word faith, though. Faith, I talk about faith as being like one of the most powerful forces in the universe, the ability to believe in something you have no proof exists, you can't touch, smell. I mean, but it goes further than just, faith in a higher power, faith that you're on the right path, faith that you're doing the right things, that you're going to be where you're supposed to be when that next opportunity presents itself. And it feels like, where you've gone, talk about San Diego to Troy, Tulane, like back to these places. Did you always have faith that you were making the right decisions in your career along the way?
Not always, no. I mean, there's sometimes I'll never forget going to the University of San Diego and being on the job for a couple weeks and really thinking, is this the right move? Did I do the right thing? I was coaching FCS 1AA non-scholarship football. I grew
What was the salary?
$17,500. $17,500. Yeah,
Not a month, not a week. That was the
that was the annual. Yeah, lived in a studio that was no bigger than this little area right here that we're sitting in. My kitchen sink was also my bathroom sink, so where I did dishes is where I brushed my teeth. Didn't always need to carry a Glock in and out of my house, but it might be a good idea at times. So yeah, definitely was like, and really being a Southeastern guy, I was born in East Texas, but really raised in Alabama. At that time, when I took the job at USD, I didn't know the difference between San Diego and San Francisco. Like, I was clueless. Like, I'd never been
from Alabama to that world.
Yeah, it's a whole different. And so, I got there and I'm like, is this really the right next move for me to make this career that I want to make? And really ended up being one of the best moves I ever made. you know, because I had to do a lot of things that you take for granted, not just coach football, but pass out socks on game day, right? Like I was the defensive coordinator, but making sure the whole team was wearing the same socks. And so you're like, we had an equipment person, but they didn't always get to travel with us because we traveled commercial to our road games. We didn't charter flights. And so all the coaches, you had to wear a different hat. And my hat sometimes is like, hey, I was a part-time athletic trainer and I'd pass out socks on game day and make sure everybody's wearing the right socks. And then I go call defenses, which was kind of a crazy time. But I do think as I experienced that through those 5 years, I started to probably grow my faith in like, hey, man, where you are is the big time, and grow where you're planted, and don't chase the next thing. Like the most important game that happened every Saturday for 5 years in the entire world to me was the University of San Diego. And then you go to Tulane and it's that, and wherever you are. So to me, the biggest stage to me has always been wherever I'm at. It's not necessarily been a certain league.
I want to talk more about your athletic career in a bit, but I think the faith conversation fits in well. When you get diagnosed with a spinal cord injury or a deal that ends your career abruptly before your senior season, I mean, what's the level of faith like at that point? And is that ultimately what kind of led you to the coaching world instead of the playing side?
Yeah, you question faith at times like that. So, I mean, it's human nature initially. You know, I was not a ridiculously talented player. I worked extremely hard to make myself.
Jason Swain told me you took great angles. Is that a great personality? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Jason Swain was a talented player. Jason was a freshman who had more talent in his pinky than I had my whole body. But so, yeah, I had worked incredibly hard to become the player I'd become. You know, I led our team in tackles my junior year in college at the University of Kentucky. I usually like to tell our team that it was actually trips. I was like swiping ankles and, you know, as Dan Campbell would say, biting kneecaps. I wasn't really getting my head across the ball carrier because I wasn't fast enough to catch them. But I'd worked really, really hard to get to that point in my career as a player. And going into that senior year was, you know, clearly a team captain, had been named to several watch lists for different awards nationally. And then that spring, I had recurring stingers that were problematic. Typically just bit my lip on it. Like, was like, yeah, it's fine.
Play through it.
Yeah, like, hey, man, rub some dirt on it. Then I had a couple stingers that lasted for like 3 days. And so like numbness in my arm all the way down to my pinky that went from a Saturday spring practice all the way to like the next Tuesday or Wednesday. Didn't subside. And I'm like, okay, that's not normal. Like these happening for a couple minutes at a time, yeah, whatever. These happening for a couple of days at a time. And so I went to Jim Adelino, our head trainer, and he's like, yeah, we need to get this. Yeah, they had already known that I'd had the issue. To what extent, we had never really felt the need to go investigate it until they became more problematic. And so having that rug pulled out from underneath you a little bit, I immediately got my degree in business finance at the University of Kentucky. Thought I wanted to coach football my whole upbringing, but was like, didn't have to make that decision because I was playing.
Yeah.
Get the diagnosis, get told they will not clear me to play. I get in the car, drive to Destin, Florida. I'm staying at Topsail, whatever it's called, the yuppie end of the beach there. And I probably try to drink whatever light there was that I could drink in a couple-day stretch. Sitting on the beach, have a little flip phone, get a phone call from the football ops guy at Kentucky at the time, Steve Hellier. And he says, hey, Coach Brooks wants to know if you want to take a GA job. And I'm like, yeah, exactly what I want to do next. And he goes, can you be here tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I got to sober up. but let me go start drinking some water. And I go to the condo, start pounding water, Gatorade, wake up at like 5 a.m. the next morning, get in my car and drive to Lexington.
How important was that call?
It was life-changing. You know, I was a little bit maybe lost for a minute because I poured so much into my playing career, and to kind of get that yanked out from underneath you, and you're going, all right, what do I do now? Like, what's next? I'd already got my degree, my undergraduate degree. Not knocking bankers or mortgage lenders, but even though I got my degree in business finance, I wasn't interested in working at a bank. I love what I do. I love football. I wake up every day and it's like it's how I'm wired. It's just all I want to do is think about the game. And so when I got that call, it changed my life because really looking back, what it did is it gave me a 1-year jump start on what I'm doing now. And I was probably headed to being a football coach either way. I don't know that I was talented enough to make it the next level. So it just expedited what was probably inevitable.
Who do you ask for help right now?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to ask for help for anybody. It's like whether it be Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer, like why would you not at the University of Florida? Okay, and so they're very helpful for me. And then my staff. I mean, I think I've hired a great staff. They all know in that room, I'm the head coach. I'm going to make the final decisions, and what I say goes. But to me, it's lean on them for their expertise to help make great decisions that are going to put us in this best position to be successful.
Coach Spurrier, around the program, what have you learned from him?
Yeah, going back, I think be yourself. He didn't change for people. Like, he's authentically himself.
That's true.
He doesn't care who walks in the room. He's going to be himself. I think there's a lot of different ways to win too. Like, I think he showed. You look at the two guys that have won at an elite level here on the field with him and Urban. I think different guys, different styles of play, but both guys that were themselves and approach things with, I think, maybe an intensity. I think the thing that people miss with Coach Spurrier is, because he is witty and he is kind of a colorful personality, is how ultra competitive he really is. Like, I think sometimes his unique personality covers up that he is like cutthroat competitive. Like, you hear the stories from guys that were here on the staff about when they would go play golf. Oh, yeah. and you'd have to put your handicap down for how you kept scoring all stuff. And he wanted to win. Like, he didn't just want to win, but he wanted to crush you. And so I love his just his energy and his edge and his passion for winning.
How do you balance who you are authentically with being the head coach, though? Because you can't necessarily be that psychopath that you were as a position coach, as a coordinator. Like, how have you evolved into managing the whole program while also being yourself, which is an emotional guy on the sideline?
Yeah, I haven't really changed. Maybe snapshots of like a pregame huddle where I might headbutt somebody. I might still do that pregame. Like, that might still happen. Now, there is also in-game moments where I'm really, really calm now. Like, I'm not a 10 out of 10 from just like about to lose my mind all the time on the sidelines. I think as the head coach, you have to be calculated. You have to be calm. You have to be maybe able to be composed and make good decisions. But I also think how you carry yourself every day as the head coach and how you walk in the building affects everybody in the building. If I walk around like Eeyore and I'm moping around, then everybody else is going to mope around. If I walk in the building with my chest up and my, a little bounce about me, a little swagger, it rubs off on everybody. Like, for my job as the head coach, I have to set the pace of the pack. And if I want our pack to go fast, man, if I want us to go urgently, I better go fast and urgently. If I want our team to be casual or complacent, then be casual and complacent. And so I think while there maybe are different things you have to embrace about being the head coach, different than being a linebacker coach, I also think what wins, regardless of what position you hold, still wins. Like, smart teams, tough teams, selfless teams, those teams win.
Fans, players, coaches, they'll always remember the best moments, right? Especially the best plays. They'll talk about it, sports bars, around the campfire, whatever. But I love it when I hear from a coach that's saying, what play still haunts you?
We go play at App, and we're winning the game 28-26. With under a minute left, we give up a Hail Mary and lose 32-28. And so we start the year off 1-2. And I was heartbroken for our kids because they had done everything we had asked of them, and they had played the same team within a 5-game stretch essentially and gone from 45-7 to losing 32-28. And there were a lot of guys that were dejected in that locker room, a lot of heartbreak because they had poured so much into help our team improve. And but I had going back to having a past experience. I was a redshirt freshman on the University of Kentucky team that lost to LSU in the Bluegrass Bowl.
Oh, yeah?
And so I thought, okay, reflect back. What did you need to hear at that moment? And I thought about it for a minute. And I went in the locker room after I had a chance to reflect, and I made sure all our players got off the field. The last 2 players off the field were Tez Johnson, our receiver, who's now at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and KJ Robertson. And Sean Clark, the head coach at the time at App, Sean comes over and he says, hey, man, I know it doesn't feel like this right now. He goes, what you're doing's working. And he goes, last year we played those guys in game 11, they were soft. They didn't play with an edge. He goes, game 3 this year, y'all kicked our butts today. We just got lucky and hit a fluke play to win. He goes, what you're doing is working. Keep doing it. So I walk in the locker room and I tell the guys, hey, listen, it's not okay to lose. Like anybody that tells you it's okay to lose, get as far away from them as possible because they're a loser. All right, like get away. And then I said, but here's the deal. There's real growth right now in this football team. And if we'll commit to embracing what that growth has looked like and go one step further, just one little step further, something special is about to happen. Well, that team went on to win 11 straight games after that. Finished 12-2, won the conference title, finished ranked 19th in all of college football. For the first time in school history that we finished the year ranked at Troy. And so I think probably one of the coolest things for me is looking back on what like was a really crappy moment, losing that game, really ended up being probably the defining moment of maybe our season. And for me as a head coach of like how you handle adversity, because it's going to go sideways at some point. Like it's no matter how good you are, you know, Coach Saban's Alabama's teams, it went sideways at certain points. But you have to stay the course. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to fight for each other. And you can't waver in the face of adversity.
How are you able to connect with these guys so quickly and believe in something that, again, that they have no proof will actually come to fruition?
They all chose Florida for a reason. Like we got a pretty special thing here. Like the University of Florida is the 5th ranked public school in the United States of America. All right, Gainesville is a pretty cool place to live. And you're not very far from Jacksonville, Orlando, and Tampa. So you got plenty to go do if you want to get in the car and drive a couple hours. The history and tradition of our football program and the passion of our fan base is not matched by many. All right. And so then what I told them is just like, hey, look, here's what you have here. You're already a known commodity here. Like Jayden Ball can walk in any restaurant in the city of Gainesville. Everybody knows who he is. All right. Why start over? Like why go do something that it's not yours, it's somebody else's, and you're just helping chip into what they've already got going on? Why not be a part of the, like one of the guys that was a part of the change that stayed and said, hey, when things weren't going good, when a Hail Mary got hit on you to cost you a game, stand up on your feet, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and let's do something different here. Like let's make something that's lasting, called a legacy, because you didn't run and hide from something that was going wrong. You actually stayed. And so this program is bigger than a coach. Like it's bigger than any single player, but getting them to buy in to like understand like, hey, we can do whatever we want right here. And going and being a part of somebody else's team doesn't make it your team. This is your team. Stay here, lead this team, help us get this thing going.
What is it about turning a program around? I mean, Florida fans excited about that kind of trajectory as well, but like, why were you able to have that impact at each of those places, starting with the high school?
We can win, and we can win now. Like I'm not real patient. Like I don't really have an interest in figuring out how do we win in 4 years like we did at my high school. Now, sometimes it takes time to get it to exactly where you want it to be. To build a championship caliber program year in, year out, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But how much time? Hopefully not a lot. And so I think you look back at what makes significant change. Well, first off, it's what you fight for daily in your program. What you allow in your program or what you promote in your program is what your program is. You know, and everyone wants to talk about culture. And I think people all the time think I'm some sort of culture builder. Well, to me, all culture is a combination of what you promote and encourage added up with what you tolerate and allow. And so if we promote or encourage certain behaviors, that's what the culture of our program becomes. If we tolerate or allow certain other behaviors, that's what the culture of our program becomes. It takes longer to build it than it does for it to deteriorate. Like I think it can be torn down faster than it can be built. And so you have to fight every day for the little standards within your program.
Walk us through the process. I know the process for a recruit, hey, these are the schools I can go to, this is the plan. But for a coach, you're being recruited as well too. They recruited you here to Gainesville. What's that process when you sit down with someone, whether it's family or an agent or whatnot, and go, these are the paths I can take? Like what information is in front of you?
Well, luckily for me, I've been through it enough times now. Like every year I feel like I've been a head coach, those phone calls have come because we've had enough success. During the season, my agent handles 99% of those conversations. And then I have a few of them with him just to maybe keep track of what's going on.
Is that, hey, here's 10 schools that are pretty interested, give me a quick text back and say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no type stuff?
Yeah, it's a phone call and it's going, hey, such and such is going to want to talk. This school is going to want to talk. This school is going to want to talk, and I think you're like the top guy or the top guy here or whatever. And so just kind of the landscape. And I go, okay, really, you know, for every yes, there's 100 no's, like on probably both ends, because you don't take every job that you get a phone call on. A lot of times it doesn't get past a phone call. You're like, yeah, just not the right time, not the right fit. So you gather the information, some of it being professional, some of it being family driven, certain things that fit, right? When it comes down to making a final decision on anything, it's me and my wife. We sit down, going back to faith, we pray over it. She prays probably more consistently than me, so I usually defer to her. I want to hear her voice on what she says first. But I don't do anything that's just based around me. But as you go through those situations, they're all, it's all neat to be considered by all the schools that have called over the years. You're looking for a fit. You're looking for where you can be yourself. You're looking for where you can be comfortable and do the job the way you want to do the job.
For you, when you're making that phone call back to a school that's interested in you, what are you communicating with them saying, I would like to have this. This will set me up for success?
Well, you know, the obvious one is making sure you're resourced in NIL and rev share enough to be competitive. We're not first, I don't think, in our league right now. I don't think we're last either. You know, it'd be a whole lot easier if we were first. But I think you just want to make sure you're going to be competitively resourced on that end. You don't want to go into a fight with a knife and somebody else has got the gun, right? And so you want to be able to at least put together a roster resource-wise that can give you a chance. And then a place that really believes in your vision. Like, you want to ask questions and gather feedback to, like, hey, I know how I want to do things. How do y'all want things done? Okay, and then you get answers back on how maybe the administration or whoever wants their program to look and what it needs to look like for them. And then sometimes it just doesn't fit. Sometimes it does. But as you go through that process, you have to make sure it's right for you and for them, because if you get there and they have an expectation of, hey, this is how we want the job done, and you have a different vision for what that looks like, then you're not starting off the right way. And so for me, it's making sure there's a match there and that there's a belief in your vision.
And how about for Jenny and the kids? What are their questions?
Yeah, so they're all a little different. When I told them I was taking this job, when I told the kids, Jenny's biggest question is, are they going to let you do it your way? Like, she just wants to know, like, hey, she believes in me. I'm blessed to have a wife that's like fully behind me, and like she's all in, and she just wants to know, like, hey, are they going to let you do it the way you like to do it? And so that's her biggest thing always. And then the kids, when I took this job, their responses were all unique and different. My 12-year-old son, his first question was, could he meet Tim Tebow? And so I said, I think we can probably make that happen. My 12-year-old daughter, her first question was, can she sit out in the crowd, not in the skybox suite area, because she likes being in the middle of the chaos on game day.
Probably make that happen.
And then my 7-year-old daughter, who maybe the greatest response of all of it, she said, and granted, you got to realize she's 7. The last 5 years in college football, the teams I've been a part of have won 53 games. I've been really, really privileged to win a lot of games. So her first response was, Dad, can we win a championship there?
Wow.
And I'm like, hell yeah, we win a championship at the University of Florida. Like, that's why we're going. But that was my 7-year-old daughter's response. And so they watch, like, they know y'all because they watch SEC Network.
Yeah.
Like, they follow it. It's their lifestyle, just like it's my lifestyle. But yeah, they want to know, can you win?
A lot of people thought there was a specific other coach that was going to be targeted. Like, how seriously did you feel like they were taking you in the beginning?
Yeah, the first call, going back to the way things play out and the processes things happen and how they happen, my agent calls and says, hey, Florida wants to do a Zoom. And I said, all right, great, I'll do a Zoom. And I let my wife know, hey, I'm going to do a Zoom with Florida. And
Where'd you do it at?
In my office.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my office.
Is that weird, being a head coach at one program, taking
a little bit
call
yeah,
from another?
It's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit like you're kind of like, what are we doing here? Yeah, so I have the ability though to quickly go like, yeah, that doesn't really matter right now. Like, so I could do the Zoom and then go, you know what, that was just a conversation. Probably not going to happen. And I'm really so worried about what I have going on my team that I'm not even thinking about it. But did the Zoom. Really kind of went into it. And I told my wife, I'm like, there's no way I'm getting the Florida job. Like, this isn't happening.
You said that.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I'm not getting that job. I'm like, I'm going to do the Zoom, I'm like, go through the process with them, have the conversation.
Why'd you think that?
Well, there was probably enough similarities with maybe Billy's background and my background resume wise.
You recognize that at that time?
Yeah. I'm not real smart, but I'm not stupid either. Right. So like I can go, hey, he was a G5 coach most recently at a school in Louisiana. I was most recently a G5 coach in the state of Louisiana. Like, hey, I had coached the Sun Belt previously. Well, he was coming here from the Sun Belt. So there's enough similarities. I was like, they may not feel comfortable making me the guy. Now, I'm my own person. Like, I don't try to be anybody else. But I have enough awareness to go, hey, that may not optically be the sell they want to try to make. And I did know that there may be another candidate or two involved. And so, and it may have had conversations with that person, who knows? But as we went through it, I did the Zoom, and I got off the Zoom and it went about an hour, maybe a little longer, maybe an hour and a half. And later that night, my wife goes, hey, how'd that Zoom with Florida goes? And I was like, it was awesome. I really loved the whole group. Like, Scott Strickland's great. Duke Warner, like, my goodness, like, freaking awesome guy. Like, just blue collar, like, fits how you want to do things. And then Danny was great.
He's blown away by you, by the way. I mean, just in listening to him tap those conversations just from the get-go, blown away.
Well, they were all great. Like, they asked great questions. But I got done with the Zoom, and my wife that night, she goes, how'd it go? I said, went great. I'm not getting the Florida job though. Like,
Still after the Zoom, after it went.
Yeah, I'm like, they're not going to have the gumption to hire a guy with a similar resume. And so I really didn't think much of it. And the next day, my agent calls me and goes, hey man, you killed it. I'm like, well, yeah, I know I killed it. Like, I'm not worried about that. I kill it. I'm still not getting that job, because they're a little more interested than you probably think. Like, and so we go, whatever, the process plays out. And
when is this? What month is this?
October, I think. Late October, early November. I was so busy, to be honest with you, that like I really did not think that much of that Zoom. And I was so worried about what I had going on right where my feet were at Tulane that I couldn't even sit here and like give you an exact date. My agent could, my wife might be able to, but I was so busy, just worried about our team. But yeah, it went great. And I really didn't think much of it. I thought, yeah, it's probably not happening. What a cool opportunity to be in that conversation. And then as it played out and things kind of kept going, I'm like, okay, this might be real.
How much conversation? There's a lot of names that go to a lot of different places. We hear that people tracking planes and where they're going, right? How much are you in conversations with other coaches about, hey, what are you thinking? What am I thinking? That's a game of chess right there.
Yeah, in full disclosure, Lane and I did talk a handful of times.
Yes.
I'd say the last 2 weeks of the season we talked 4 or 5 times at least.
Well,
just kind of going back and forth on, hey, what do you have going on? What are you thinking? What are you doing? And we both knew we were both kind of headed towards maybe being in the playoff and having to walk through it. Him going through it at maybe SEC to SEC looked a lot different than me going through it, leaving an American school to come to the SEC, a little bit different transition. So that part was different, but we talked a handful of times. And I talked to Eric Morris a decent amount. Eric was, the head coach of North Texas. He's down at Oklahoma State. Eric and I were getting ready to play each other. It looked like both in the conference championship game, which we did. And the week and a half before, I said, hey, if you take another job and I take another job, we should announce it like the same day, the same time. Hell, let's do a joint press conference. And that way, neither one of us gets bombarded with all the stuff going around being a head coach of 2 teams kind of at the same time. And so talked to Eric quite a bit as well. Those were probably the 2 guys I talked to the most that were going through a similar type thing.
Out of all the coaches, the new ones around the SEC, or at least starting their first year at a new school, which one do you have probably the closest relationship with?
Yeah, I've known Pete Golding maybe the longest, and we're probably got the most in common in a lot of ways. We're both defensive guys in background. I think Pete had a small school upbringing to some degree. I didn't play at a smaller school. I played in the SEC, but I went down to the lower levels and worked my way up in coaching. And so we've always had a great relationship. The back and forth with myself and Pete's always good. But great relationships with Alex Golish and Ryan Silverfield, because I was in the league with both those guys the last couple of years. Got to know both them really well. All the guys are new. I've got great relationships with all of them.
What's your favorite group text that's on your phone? Coaches all have them.
My favorite group text is some of the ones with my staff. Yeah, internally. The ones that are the other SEC coaches, I look at them. I don't really participate a ton. I'm just like.
Are they chatterboxes?
Some guys are, some aren't. Everybody's a little different. I mean, I'm new. I'm the new kid on the block, so I'm not the guy that's going to act like I got every answer in league meetings. I'm just trying to figure the league out a little bit, make sure I know where we're positioned to put Florida in the best light. But
how many coaches are all of the 16 coaches on one, or it's just a group, or how does that work?
No, there's different ones,
different levels to the SEC coaches.
So there's the all head coaches, all 16 are on one.
Okay.
And then even before being in the league, as a joke, back, I don't know, about middle of last season, I'm not going to name who all, but I had a couple of guys in the league say, hey, just going ahead and including you in some future messages since you're going to be in the league next year. Guys would wrote me into a group message. I'm like, guys, it's October. Like, what are y'all talking about? But there were a couple of coaches that had cast that I might be an SEC head coach one day, and they were already putting me in a couple of messages, kind of giving me some jabs.
So let's go back to that last week of the regular season. Black Friday, Egg Bowl's taking place. News around halftime breaks that Florida's pivoting from Lane Kiffin and moving somewhere else. The news starts to leak that it could be you. You talked about the easy comparison of resumes between you and Billy Napier. The backlash initially was brutal. And then Sunday with the introductory press conference, I think people got a peek into who you were and how quickly that kind of changed. I mean, what was that feeling like? Maybe almost being rejected by a fan base before you ever had a chance to earn their respect or their affection.
I didn't need anybody to choose me other than the search committee. And then I got to choose where I wanted to go. The beautiful thing was I had options. I wasn't sitting there with one choice. What probably didn't make sense to people is I chose the one place that maybe the general public was like, hang on, that guy? Mm-hmm. And so I felt convicted that this was the right place for me at the right time. And I really wasn't worried about the court of public opinion. I was worried about what I was going to be able to do at the place once I got there. And I felt pretty comfortable in my own skin with, hey, when these people get to know me, they're going to be all right. They're going to get over it real quick. And so I think I'm not smart enough to have more than one personality, right? Like I can only be me. And I got a pretty good hunch that who I am fits the University of Florida pretty good. And since getting here, what's been awesome is I haven't felt any of that. It's been quite the opposite. I think the more people have gotten to know who I am, who our staff is, and what we're about, they're like, oh, wait, we really like this, I think. And so we got to win football games. That's what really makes people happy. That's what makes me happy too. But I don't get caught up in maybe what the social media, the Twitter experts, what they say. There's lots of them out there. I'm really excited about being here. And I think over time, I feel like the feelings become more mutual.
I think you guys, there's a cool community of coaches here in the Athletic Association. I think one of the things that got Florida fans the most fired up was seeing your passion on the sideline, and very reminiscent of Todd Golden's on the sideline, that energy level and the relationship with play. Like, what's that friendship or relationship like between he and you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. So as I went through the process of taking the job here, spoke with Todd several times before officially doing so. He probably got nudged to help recruit me. And then we've hit it off. We've become really close. We text, I feel like it seems like daily. We was kidding around earlier before the set that we're going to Morgan Wallen together and we're splitting a box and we're doing all the stuff. Like we're boys, man. And I'm his biggest fan. Pull for them. Love watching him. I got the chance to sit courtside right next to Todd for a few games this basketball season, and watching him coach, I was like, all right, this guy, like, I see some similarities to where I think he could fit on our staff. Like, he's got real juice and energy and passion and fire, and so he's been awesome, been great to me, as well as all the coaches in our athletic department. But Todd and I have really forged a great friendship.
I need you to give a 30-minute talk, but the topic has nothing to do about football or anything about. What are you picking? What topic are you picking?
It'd probably be maybe not directly football, but it'd probably be leadership. Mm-hmm. Like, how you build leaders, how you build leadership within a program, My master's work I did after going to undergrad for finance was in sports leadership.
Okay.
And so I think while what I do is coach football, really what you're doing is you're leading. And the football is a part of it, but the leadership part's like the overarching thing that you're doing. And so probably leadership would be the thing.
But that's also
Yeah,
that's part of
that's a
coaching.
connection.
That's a cop out, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We talked to Tim Corbin, Vanderbilt baseball coach, all the time on our radio show. You know, if he wasn't coaching baseball, he'd be a four-star general in the Army or
Yeah.
a CEO. Nick Saban's the
Yeah,
same.
so if I was going to get into a different field,
Yeah.
and have like a different line of work, it probably would be like business finance. Like, and if I didn't, when I had my injury, if I didn't get into coaching, I probably would have picked up and like moved to New York City and done Wall Street. Like, so my financial planner, he's probably got a really great job, but sometimes my phone calls are probably not fun because I probably have questions where I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? Or what's happening with the market right now and that? Or like, I just have general curiosities.
When people talk about Florida football under Jon Sumrall going forward, they're going to say what?
Man, we got to wake the beast up. I want people to realize that this needs to be one of the most feared programs in college football. And we have a lot of work to do to get back to that space. But I think you look at going back to Coach Spurrier and you look at Urban Meyer's time here. When Florida football is on fire, it can be as good as anybody in the country. And we've got to get it back to where we're a feared program that when you see us on the schedule, you're in for a fight.
In your office, there's a bunch of different helmets from places you've been, different accolades. What's the one thing that means the most to you in that office?
Probably my high school helmet. Going back to bring the conversation full circle, walk into a high school program that had not been successful, and seeing the success we were able to create by going to the semifinals my senior year. Didn't get the job done, but went 1-9 as a freshman on the varsity to 12-2 as a senior. And I look at that and I think, man, that's where I fell in love with the game. Fell in love with it maybe prior to that, but that's where I fell in love with all the details of being good at this game. And so when I look at that, it's the first helmet in that row. It's the one that's furthest from the back where you have to go walk down a little bit of a hallway to see in my office. But it's the one that maybe gives me the most chills when I look at it. Either that one or the helmet that I look at on the other end, which is the Florida Gator one. That probably gives me some chills too.
You've come out of the tunnel for the spring game, but what are you most looking forward to about experiencing the Swamp as the head football coach of the University of Florida?
Yeah, I've shared with people, I've got some scars from being on the other sideline here too. And I'll never forget being a player here in 2004. And at a TV timeout, we were down 13-3 late in the fourth quarter. And I remember getting ready to go out for our last defensive drive of the game and looking around at the TV timeout thinking, man, this place is special. Like, this place is different. There's some stadiums you could be blindfolded in, take it to the 50-yard line, unblindfolded, and you have to figure out, like, okay, where am I? You take your blindfold off at the 50-yard line of the Swamp and you see the winged walls and the orange paint. You're like, I'm in the Swamp. I know exactly where I'm at. The home field advantage here is real. We've sold out, I think, 18 or 19 straight home games and haven't maybe had the on-field success we want to create. I got a feeling we're going to be able to get this place rocking. And when we do, I think you have one of the most special home field advantages in all of college football. And so I'm fired up to just see our fan base embrace the football team we're going to put forward, and really, I'll take it all in. I'll be in that moment fully.